I'd like to explain how to configure Google Analytics. Let's talk about what are Google Analytics configuration recommendations. So again, Google Analytics is a Google service that you use to connect to your website so that you can then track different statistics and data points and values about people that are visiting your website. So once you've gone through actually setting it up and you have the proper code added to your website, so the data is coming from your website back to your Google Analytics account, there are some settings within your Google Analytics account that you may want to do to improve those settings. And they're divided into a few parts. The first one is actually the account settings. This is areas where you'll find things like user management, so that's where your user account is, or if you want to give other people access to your Google Analytics account, you can actually add them in as a different user with different permissions and rights to view different areas. Another thing that you can do at the account level setting is actually set up filters. Filters are actually things that will actually stop data from going to Google Analytics. So the most common one is actually filtering your own traffic. So as you browse your website, you don't want that traffic to show up. And again, since it's you, there's really no reason to ever track it. In fact, it'll get confusing if you are like doing some work on your website and you think there's a big spike and it was just because you were going to your website. So you can actually filter out things. So filtering out your traffic is one of the most commons, but there are other filters. Another part of your Google Analytics account that you would want to configure is what are called property settings. These are things like first just the tracking information that you'll actually use to hook it up. Whether or not you want your Google Analytics account linked to other things such as Google Ads or Google Search Console. And then you may want to define and allow certain audiences to be determined based on your Google Analytics account. So all these can be handled within the property settings. Finally, there's something in your Google Analytics account called the view settings. Some of this is very simple, like just what the view is named, but how you might actually see information. But there are some settings you'll maybe want to go through, like filtering out bots when they come to your site and other things. So let's get into the demonstration of your Google Analytics configuration. We're going to go through the three main areas, which are account settings, property settings, and view settings. Okay, so let's go through and configure our Google Analytics account. So first, this assumes you've already set up your Google Analytics account and tied it into your website so that the data is showing up. So go ahead and just log in. If you're not sure what the URL is, you can just do a Google search for that. And the website to go to is analytics.google.com. You'll first need to log in with your Google account that you use to set up your Google Analytics account. So type in your email and then your password. Okay, you'll be at your Google Analytics overview or home screen or main dashboard. So to make all of the necessary configurations, you want to do this through the admin area. So you just go down here to the lower left where it says admin and click that. And now you will actually be shown the three different areas of configuration. One is the account, the second is the property, and the third is the view. And the best way to think about this is the account is sort of the main container. You may have one or multiple properties in your account. In this case, the properties relating to our website. Now, we could have an account with multiple websites, hence multiple properties. The key is that the property is tied to a tracking code. And then within each of those properties, you could have multiple views. Recommendation is really, especially if you're only managing one website, have one account, one property, which links to that one website, and then you may have one or multiple views. The reason you'd have multiple views is if you want to show different information or allow people to see different information. So again, one website, pretty much just one account, one property, and one view. But again, there are reasons why you might have multiple views within one property, and if you're tracking multiple websites, like maybe they're both related but they have different URLs, you might want to do properties. Remember, Google Analytics is designed for many different scenarios, but in this case we want to try to keep it as simple as possible. So one account, one property, one view. So let's first go through some recommendations within the account settings that you might want to do. So we'll just click real quick on account settings. And we'll see that this is pretty much basic. You got your account number, the name, which you could change, where you're located, and if you want to share data settings. The one that's is clicked here by default but is useful is benchmarking. It's usually clicked by default, but you might want to click that if it's not. It allows you to see how you may relate to other businesses similar to you. The other ones are basically, if you want to share with other properties, and if you want technical support or people from Google to actually look at it. So in this case, usually the defaults are fine. Account user management. This is where if you needed to give other people access to your Google Analytics account, you could set them up here with different permissions. Some people may be able to edit, collaborate, or just read, and then who may choose to analyze people. It's not a bad idea to have at least 2 accounts connected, just in case something goes wrong with your account, someone else can log in and fix that. Filters. Filters are where you can, again, restrict data from coming from your website into Google Analytics. So it only works in the future. It doesn't go back in the past to remove data, but it does work for everything going forward. So one of the good filters to add is actually the IP address of where you typically look at your website. The reason why is you don't want your website traffic to show up in your Google Analytics and you think, hey, I had 10 people show up today, when in reality it was just you checking your website. So how do you actually set that up? So what you do is go ahead and add filter. Go ahead and give it a name. So I'll just say home, or I'll just go ahead and say work office. Again, it doesn't really matter. And there are predefined ones here. So we'll just say we want to exclude traffic from an IP address. And that is equal to, and then the IP address. So you need to find the IP address of where you typically come from. Fortunately, this is kind of simple. What you want to do is just open up a browser to Google and say, what is my IP address? And go ahead and click on that. And Google will actually bring that information back to you. Now, I've hidden my information here only because, well, it's my IP address. But basically, what will show up in that screen is the IP address of your internet connection. Now, these are actually dynamic. They do change, but if you keep your internet router or modem on all the time, most of the time that IP address becomes pretty stable. So you just type that information in here, and then all traffic from you, or technically your IP address that is used for your internet modem, will be blocked. So you would just type in that information here. We'll just go ahead and do one of the samples that it was listed. And we'll go ahead and apply it to views. In this case, we just have one view, which is all website data. Oops, sorry, click here, add over there, and then go ahead and hit save. Of course, I'm just doing a test, so I won't do that, so I'll go ahead and cancel here. And then once you were to save it on your screen, you'll actually see that as a filter here. And again, so any traffic coming from my IP address will not show up in your Google Analytics account. The last thing that's kind of interesting here is your account change history. You can actually see all the changes that have occurred in your Google Analytics account over a specific date range. So this is kind of good to go back and you can actually see what you may or may not have made some changes. Okay, so that covers the account settings. Now we'll go ahead and go through the property settings. So the first one we want to look at is actually the property settings. And here we'll see some information again. The name of your property, which again could just be the name of your company, but whatever you'd like there. The tracking ID, which may or may not come into play when you're doing different things. The default URL, the default view, the industry or category, and this again goes back to the benchmarking I mentioned. So you might want to go through here and try to see if there is one that's closer to your business than the other, but if that's all you can pick, other is fine. Let's see. Oh, enable demographics and interest reports. Yes, you want to go ahead and turn this one on. And the reason why is this allows you to see additional information related to age and gender, which is kind of useful. It's aggregated, so you don't get specific information, but again, it can pull some of the information, so that's why it's kind of interesting to enable that. Okay, the only other one here that's kind of useful is the Search Console. Again, hopefully as part of your setup you've already connected that, but if you did need to adjust that or something, that would be actually visible here, but not much there. Oops, go ahead and click that again. And that pretty much does it here. Go ahead and make sure to hit save, which as I've been moving screens, the save hasn't been happening. The next one to look at real briefly is the tracking information and then the tracking code. This is mainly just to remember if you do need to add your code back to into your website, this is where you can see it again and get access to it. So the next one is to look at the data collection here. This you'll actually want to turn on quite early in your website because it actually allows you to do remarketing. Now, you may not intend to do Google Ads anytime currently or in the future, but by enabling this, you've actually set up that data is being tracking. So if you did need to want to do remarketing ads, that data will already be there. So it's not a bad idea to go ahead and turn that on when we're at it. And by default, turning that on turns on this advertising reporting feature. And go ahead and hit save for that. Okay, so that handles everything here in the tracking information. We'll just go back up to the top here, close that up so we don't have to see it. So again, to refresh, we've changed a couple things in property settings. We changed a few things in tracking information. The next one that I wanted to point out is this product linking area. So if you were to use Google Ads, or Google AdSense or other products, you would want to link them to your Google Analytics account. And this is the area that you would do for that. The final part of the properties we'll go into real quick is audience definitions and then audiences. And again, if you enabled the ability to use remarketing, this is where you'll actually go ahead and create your first audiences. So again, you may be creating there. We'll go ahead and just enable this so that we create one called all users. So it's using the source. We've enabled the remarketing, so we'll just hit the next step. The destinations, where would you like to publish this information? We'll just put it into our analytics there, and then we'll just enable it. So again, this is not something you need to worry about right now, but it does mean that you've kind of created an audience that's starting to be built based upon the fact that you may, in some point down the road, want to look at using remarketing for an ad campaign. Okay, so we'll just go back up to the top, close that one up. And again, that's pretty much all we need to worry about here in the properties. So now let's talk about the last of the three areas in your configuring your Google Analytics account. This is the view settings. So the first one we'll actually look at is the view settings. And again, you can change the name, you can change the URL to your website. Definitely want to set up your time zone where you're located. Default page, not really needed. This is just if, as the little option here says, if for some reason you don't start at the same home page, though most people do. Exclude URL query parameters. This may come up in something down the road with different things. So, for example, Facebook seems to always put some queries that you may not want to have show up in your analytics result. So you might do that. If you're going to use e-commerce, it gives you the option here. Bot filtering, you will definitely want to turn this one on if it isn't already. This allows the Google Analytics to turn off things that it knows to be bots or crawlers from other search engines. And then an additional one here is the site search tracking, which you may want to turn on because you might want to find out what people are searching. So let me show you how that might work. We'll go back to our website. Okay, and in WordPress, there is a search feature. So if you actually click here and you type in something like, I'll just do world because I know that's going to come up as a result. You'll notice up here that it has the website / s equals world. So that's actually the search query. So when you enable this, as we saw in the other one, you just type in the letter S, and that's the search string that it'll look for. So we'll go ahead and save that. And then we'll go just back up to the top real quick, and we'll just quickly skim these. There's no other settings we really need to do. But again, if you wanted to do, say, user access only at the view level or the property level or the account level, they kind of exist there. Goals or advanced features, you could filter specifically at this level. There's just some other settings. Again, nothing here that kind of is best practices as you're starting to set up your Google Analytics. So again, to summarize, once you have your Google Analytics account created, there are a few recommended configurations to do in the 3 different areas of your account settings, your property settings, and your view settings. And we just kind of went through those, and now you're pretty much set up to look at your data. So in conclusion, once you have your Google Analytics account set up, there are some configurations that I recommend that you do. These relate to the 3 aspects of your Google Analytics account. So the account settings, the property settings, and the view settings. When you've made these configuration changes, your Google Analytics account's pretty much ready to go. And you can start looking at the different values that you might want to view and to figure out more about people visiting your website. Hope you enjoy it.